Welcome to the new video. Today I will look at my old but books which I still love and which are still very interesting to me. As usual, problem is lack of time, but I hope that next year I will do something here, especially in Game of Thrones, which is one of my oldest books. I was very lucky to purchase it in the very beginning of my hobby when I didn't know about any international bookshops, about international delivery, so I went to our local bookstores and I was lucky to find this beauty. And surprisingly, it also was printed on decent paper. I started from very simple pictures like those family emblems, and here I used everything I owned at the moment, mostly Derwent color softs and some Faber-Castell school-grade pencils. Then I started to add a little bit of watercolors when I discovered that it's possible to use them on this paper. But of course, when I look at my 6-7 years old work, I don't want to critique them. I simply look at them as the steps, the beginning of my hobby. Because if I need to critique them, I would say that there is a lack of shadows, lack of textures. Color palettes are probably not so good, but for the first works, they weren't that bad. Actually, I started not from the emblems, but the picture here with those flags. And here definitely you can see a lack of depth, but at least I tried to do wood, to think about shadows. Well, let me show you quickly what I have here. Still some of the most complicated portraits I hadn't colored yet, like this Cersei portrait. But my two last works, they are definitely best in the book. I think that I did them maybe 2.5 years ago. Well, quite long, but they were really good. First is portrait of Sansa. Here, usually in this book I prefer to do quick watercolor underpaint for the background, especially for the winter pictures, it's very helpful. And then I did the main image. I think that it was Prismacolors, I don't remember. But it's pencils plus watercolors. Here I especially proud of the Sansa clothes and on fur of the wolf. For me it was easy to do castle, to do snow, but then when I started to think about which color to select for her coat, for her dress, it was a difficult choice. Now I think that everything looks very well balanced. Her face immediately is a focal point here, and second focal point is the fur of Lady Wolf. So I also tried to show all those highlights from a couple of sources of light, from the fire here. So at least I tried to think about highlights and shadows. And second one was this portrait of Loras Tyrell. Here I mostly used polychromos probably. Anyway, it's pencils apart from a very light blue watercolor for the sky. Everything else it's pencils. I think that it's a blend of polychromos and Prismacolors. This one was much easier because I love to color metals, I love to color leather and other things which we can find in armor. So Loras, apart from his face and hair, it was easier project. Still need to do the red enchantress. This portrait it's old, but I still think that it looks lovely, and I'm quite proud that biggest part of it I did with watercolor. All this fabric and folds on the fabric. Here's all area of clothes I did with watercolors. Surprisingly, watercolor works quite well here. And on top of watercolor, quite often I also used Kohinoor Mondeluz pencils. When I did this, I didn't have polychromos pencils, I had already color softs, Prismacolors, but Kohinoor Mondeluz were extremely helpful. And another work which I really love is this Winter Horseman, and I love it again because it's mostly done with watercolors, only a little bit of texture of fur, but only a little bit on the lighter area of fur, and a little bit of clothes was done with pencils. The rest it's watercolor. For me it's a huge project. This one I don't consider as a very successful work, mostly because everything looks a little bit too dark and dirty. Well, many old works. Now, again, I would say that some of them lack color. This one was done almost completely with Inktense pencils. I would say that some of colors started to look paler. Maybe it's because of the paper, you know, that Inktense they are not exactly permanent. Or maybe I don't remember how bright it was from the beginning. Just wish it would be brighter. This one I consider as a total failure. Those stupid rays of light which I did here, they look childish. And why I added this metal paint? No. This one I love. Again, it's in limited color palette, but I think that it shows the atmosphere of frozen winter perfectly. This one is nothing special, definitely not enough of shadows on the building, and not very good work on the sky. It looks dirty and on the ground. That was my first work where I actually discovered that I can use watercolor on this paper. So despite all the problems and lack of shadows and bright colors, I'm still grateful that I have it. I don't know, I started this one, it was created by Tomislav Tomic, one of my favorite artists, something I disliked, even from this tiny area, and I abandoned it. Well, here are my experiments with more dramatic waves, more dramatic skies. This one I love because of the contrast of this bloody things on the towers, on the ruined castle, and these very romantic pastel colors of sky. I wanted to make it really dramatic, so that's why I added a little bit of red to make it look like blood. Another very strange picture. It was strange originally, and I did it even more strange with my coloring. This one is not bad. Maybe again terrible lack of deep shadows, but color palette is pleasant, and it was difficult to color because of the complicated perspective. Picture by itself it's extremely beautiful, so maybe if I added deeper shadows, deeper contrast, it would be even more spectacular. Now it's not bad, but yeah, I can see now where I can improve it. I still have couple of pictures which I really want to color, like this one or this one. Well, previously I hoped to finish the whole book. Now I wouldn't say that it will give me such pleasure, because when you have a book where pictures are on so different level, from the beginner level to more advanced, well, I wouldn't say that it would give me such a pleasure to look at it, because I always look at those earlier pictures that I could do the whole book on the better level. Anyway, I'm glad that I did it. In the process of coloring it, it gave me indeed a lot of experience how to shade snow, how to do better fur. Again, it was made almost completely with watercolors. I think that it's a good work. Another one, but it's pencils mostly, and only a little bit of gray blue for the sky for watercolor. Here stone work was done with pencils. Another dramatic work for clouds and water. This one it's all pencils, I think. Again, watercolor and pencils. Watercolor and pencils. I think that it was my favorite technique everywhere. It really helped me to save some time. Pictures are detailed, so it's always nice when you at least to can do background quicker. This is totally ruined. I absolutely dislike how I worked with these metal colors. Well, I just got those metal sets and I added these paints everywhere. This one is... I do love the sword, how I did highlights, shadows on metal, but I don't like the background. And I want to do this one. I also own another one, that huge book. And you won't believe me, but I'm still not very confident to color something here, mostly because I don't know which technique to use. Here pictures are double-sided. I don't think that it will allow me to use water without bleeding, so maybe I either have to ruin part of the pictures with bleeding through, or I need to use something like acrylic. It's not that I want to color everything here, and especially I'm afraid to color portraits, but several pictures I would love to color. So far I did only one, and it's only pencils. I love this one, and with pencils it's really a very big pleasure to work on this paper, but what to do with huge spreads? Maybe I need to start from something simpler, but my favorite page, which I really want to color, is this one. And similar this one, which is even more complicated because we have reflection and too much of those lines. Here I definitely can see that I will use gouache paints, but these projects, they are still intimidating, so maybe when I have better state of mind, not when I color only to relax myself, when I will be ready for my art challenges. So maybe one day I have such a state of mind, so then I will return to this book. I absolutely love them. I totally don't want to put them on the upper shelf. I constantly remember that I need to do several pictures here and to do something here. It's just they will have to wait a little bit longer. Now we will look at totally different style of book, which I forgot to include in the video about books where you can use watercolors. This book is also printed on textured paper, similar to watercolor. I would say that it's indeed watercolor. And here, if you are not familiar with this book, because I think that for a long time it's out of print. And it's a pity because books were great. It was kind of story like comics about those investigators who tried to find the thief of a light bulb burglar. And from the first until the last picture we have the story in pictures. Quality of the book is great. I absolutely love this paper. And here I used a lot of Kohinoor Mondeluz again, because paper allowed me to apply watercolors and pencils, also different color softs, which are very demanding to the paper quality. They were good here. And recently I also used here more interesting pencils like graphitins. They are also quite matching the steampunk style of the story. And all other pencils also are good here. So mostly I started to color from the beginning of the book, and I think that it was a right thing to do, because, well, let me show you my works which I have here, and then we will talk why I stopped to color here. So here we have the main heroes, their means of transport. I do love the steampunk style, those various parts of machinery. Here we have the owner of light bulb collection, and the thief. Here we have the burglary moment, discovery of the light bulb disappearance, and then they call the company of detectives, investigators, to find the thief. I tried to add more dramatic treats here by using various paints, but mostly I love to work on the main heroes and on their airplanes, their cars, and other parts of machinery. Some of these pictures, they look a little bit repetitive, so that's why I colored one page, then I missed several pages, I skipped, and I moved forward. And yeah, it was a good idea because it was never boring to color. Here I used a lot of watercolor, so you can finish pictures quickly. Here I started to use graphitins, really very helpful on the whole cloak of burglar. I used graphitins, granulating Moonclaw watercolor here for those clouds, also for more interesting look, and then only a little bit of bright pencils for the lamp. I especially love this one. It looks like comics in several parts, where Bagler started his way, then continued here, here, and here. I tried to use this vibrant wine red for each of the parts, like to make those some connection between 4 parts of the Bagler's path. So it was interesting to select colors, and at the same time it was quick to do. But then, well, if you color one by one, it's a little bit boring because they are similar. But if you skip part of the book, you select picture, you don't feel connection to the story. They are not very complicated by themselves. Yes, pictures where we have characters, they are more interesting. But pictures like this one, they are not interesting to color if you don't feel the whole story from the first until the last thing. So maybe if I want to feel inspiration again, I don't need to do pictures like in the middle, in the end. Maybe I need to color indeed as much as possible in order. Because if I color all interesting pictures, like this one, then I will never color the rest of them. Where is my picture with them? They are flying. It was one of my first in the book. This one. Here, for the first time, I used gouache when I purchased my first set. And I love how gouache also worked here. It helped me to mask some lines on the sky, which I didn't like. So maybe if I return to it, and I intend to do so, I will try to color in order as much as possible. Especially because in the beginning I have really nice pictures. I want to do this one and this one. Well, we will see. This book definitely deserves to be colored. If you can find it and if you like this style of art, you will definitely enjoy it because paper is absolutely great. Next one is a book which was extremely popular maybe 4 or 5 years ago. Now I never see it in reviews. I think that it's also out of print, but when it was printed it was really interesting. It has one of my favorite themes, fairy tales. The book is created by Enuji Park, so it's Korean. It's also quite famous for me, quite significant for me, because here on many pictures I used only budget pencils. I owned Derwent color softs and I owned Faber-Castell school grade pencils. I owned Colleen pencils, and I used them here because of the good paper. They even created good pictures and a lot of soft pastel. Here I did this library. I tried to do like several circles of colorful pictures here, here, and here. The rest I did in more brown sienna brown colors because I was afraid that it would be too bright. The right side is simply colorful. Here I tried to show those portals into the stories of the book, one where the girl, the main character, goes into the story, and here another one where we have the tiny, very cute rabbit. Well, line art here is, well, not for everyone's taste. For example, I am not a big fan of these trees in more decorative style, especially those pine trees. That's maybe not my piece of cake, that's why I hadn't colored it. This one I started to color with pastel watercolors. I totally disliked those trees, which I wanted to do like chocolate, made from chocolate. Then something maybe distracted me, maybe I didn't like how paints went here, so I abandoned it. It was the last touch for this book. Again, I would also say that it has too much black areas for my taste, so that's why I also skipped some of the pictures. And it's another one where watercolors didn't work well. Here watercolors work only as underpaint, as a full and only one medium. You will have problems because paper absorbs pigment very quickly. But if you work on top of it with pencils, watercolors can help. Some of the pictures I still love it, especially this castle and this girl. It's definitely one of the best. If I return to it, I will do this one. But many pictures here I really love. Some of them now, they don't look very progressive, but when I finished them at that moment 5 years ago, I was extremely proud how I did this water, how I did the whole swan and his feathers with watercolor and only a little bit of pencils, how I did those huge area of willows, probably those fantasy trees. So at that moment, my work here, I was extremely proud of myself. Now not so much. As I said, to color leaves, to color landscapes with watercolors only, it always was difficult for me. This one is also lovely, why I hadn't colored it during autumn season. Many pictures actually are lovely. This one where I also used a lot of metal paints. Here to show the flight of the unicorn, I added metal paints on top of black acrylic, here on top of regular watercolor. Now I don't like how it looks, it's very cheap and childish. This one is really lovely. This one I would love to color. Here I love the left side, but the right side it's a little bit empty, and again I dislike the look of those pine trees. And another interesting one is with Alice. I actually did one spread with Alice. Here I used color softs. Color softs are really great on this paper. I don't know why they love this paper so well. You can even do backgrounds with color softs, very rare thing. And this spread I love. I still think that it was made really good. So even if it's quite old, I think that it's nice. Here leaves were made with watercolor. Now I don't like how colors on them blend, but that's because paper absorbs pigment very quickly. It was very difficult to make more smooth mixes and washes. But they created quite colorful background for the girl. Girl I do love, and it's again made with color softs. Well, I would love to continue coloring here, but as I have more inspiring books now, that's the main reason why I always got distracted from doing something in this quite old book. But I still think that it's lovely. At least I don't despair, that I give it a chance, that maybe one day I will return to it. Next I have this exotischer Orwald. Oh my god. So we have this German book, and it's about exotic plants and exotic animals. It's really great. I love paper here. I love style of good vibes and various. My only complaint is that we don't have names of plants like we have now in Leila Dewley book, like we have in Paul Brun. There it's really very helpful, or in Kerber Razanes. When you have a name of plant or animal, first you can educate yourself, and you can have an initial idea about colors. Here we have this map, which I also would love to color. Usually I don't like pictures where something, the object, consists of leaves and flowers, like Mille Marotta. It's totally not my style. But here, surprisingly, many pictures I do love. And I love that here we have several continents, several famous places of the planets. Sometimes it's just country or continent, sometimes it's more specific land, island, where we have some unique plants and birds. So you can still learn something from this one. Surprisingly, these smaller pictures, they never attracted me. I mostly used them for testing pencils. Here I tested Prismacolors for the first time. It was lovely. So here I was more interested in bigger pictures in 2 pages spreads. I really love this one. But I did another page from the same region, this one. I think that I selected it because of the black background. Sometimes when you first look at it, it looks like a total puzzle, like a mess, but then when you find the main animals, then plants, it started to be much more interesting to color. Another crazy colorful. Now when I look at it, I would say that why you haven't divided them into 2 pictures, so it would be not as crowded, but maybe it's another kind of pleasure. At least it was fun to color. You do small part of the picture and it's already like small finished project. I divided it into many videos, many short colorings, and maybe it's not well balanced. It's extremely motley and extremely colorful, but each of the elements was fun to color. I also have somewhere, yeah, here I have those birds. It's Derwent color softs, Derwent drawings, and then I believe that I used maybe Prismacolors, maybe polychromasis already. For a long time it was only one of my book where there were winter pictures. I didn't have any other winter pictures. I had this one and collage art by Martin Noble. Only there I had winter pictures. So I experimented how to do shadows on snow with watercolor, how to do shadows on snow with pencils. Here I tried to do something like Northern Lights with metal paints on black background. This one is lovely. I am not a big lover of mandala, but this one is really lovely because of the animals and birds here. Another one where I added gouache background and the main image was done completely with Derwent drawings and only one blue pencil as addition. And another, a very colorful page. I think that it's the last one. Here I did soft pastel background. I didn't like the feeling on the paper, so I decided that I don't want to continue. Yeah, that's all. And final book in this video, it will be Floribunda by Leila Duley. I hadn't started yet her latest book about beautiful planet, and in Floribunda so far I did only 2 pictures. Here my problem was expectations from the paper. I expected it to be similar to Flower Year, but here paper it's a thick cardstock. In Flower Year all pencils, Prismacolors and polychromases worked really well. Here, even if paper was thick, when I started to work with polychromas, I felt like maybe I applied too much pressure, like tip of my pencil went into surface of paper. I was afraid that I start to damage it. I don't know, or maybe those compositions which I consider more beautiful comparing to Flower Year, they were a little bit intimidating for me, a little bit overwhelming. But I know that I need to return to this book because it's a beauty. I am very lucky that I have this book. I don't know if it's still available, maybe not already, but Beautiful Planet is also very nice. So if you love to color botanical illustrations, Leila Duley is one of the 2 best artists for botanical books, at least for me. The second one is this totally different color palette. I do love those 2 pictures which I finished here, and I simply need to return to it. For me, the best way here is to combine Prismacolors and polychromases. Polychromases I prefer to use for leaves. I think that their shades of green are much more natural, and variety and blending of greens it's better. But for flowers, for their vibrancy on this paper, for me Prismacolors work better. Creamy color, it works better with Prismacolors, at least for me. Well, I really hope that Floribunda or Beautiful Planet will appear in my videos during the next year. Thank you for watching this video about my old but good books. I have many other books in the same category, old by good, so maybe I will film another one if I have enough free time. Thank you for your patience, for listening for this very long serial, for so many series. It was a pleasure for myself to film it and to look back at my old works and my old books. And I hope that for you it also was something interesting to look at, because many books now they are not as popular on YouTube, but they can be a good refreshing change from the books which are now more popular. Thank you, and I will see you very soon.